Hello friends, and welcome back to It's a Ootsy Thing and What's for Supper. If you watched my video yesterday, we hosted our Connect group on Wednesday, and I fixed a little bit extra than I normally do. But tonight's supper is going to be so easy and so yummy. You are definitely going to want to make this. Now, this is one of those things that you could make ahead of time and have it in the freezer, and before you go to work, pop it in your crock pot, have it on low, and it'll be ready for supper that night. I'm going to do just a little bit different. What I'm making is meatballs. I don't care for the store-bought frozen ones. If you don't mind those, then go ahead and get them. That's easy. You can do that. But you can also make your own. You can make them ahead of time and have them in the freezer, make a whole bunch of them at one time, and just take out what you need for your meal. But I'm going to go ahead and just put together what I need for this meal, make my own meatballs. I'm going to fry them in the skillet for a little bit so that they're done on the outside a little bit, and then I'll put it in the crock pot. So come along, I'll show you what I'm doing, and have meatballs and probably mashed potatoes. I made a few extra mashed potatoes last night, so we'll have mashed potatoes. There's a little bit of the Jello salad left over, so we'll have that as well. And I still have some of that cheesy herb bread left. So easy supper. So here we're going to get started. I already have a half a cup of chopped up onion in my bowl. To that, I'm going to add 1 pound of hamburger meat. Next, I'm going to add 1/4 cup of quick oats. Now you could do breadcrumbs, you could do chopped up crackers, or you can do the oats, whichever you prefer. But just something to kind of hold this all together. I'm going to add salt and pepper. Next, I'm going to add about 1/8 teaspoon of nutmeg, a little dab of onion salt, and a little dab of garlic salt. And then 1 egg. Then I'm going to mix this together. You can serve these meatballs over rice, mashed potatoes, by themselves, however you think you and your family would like. But since I have some extra mashed potatoes from last night making too many for the casserole that I made, I'm going to use them this evening for our supper. So this is going to be so easy. Okay, once I start making the meatballs, it's going to come together just a little bit better and hold together. If you don't want to use the egg, you can always use a little dab of water. So now we're going to take these over to the skillet and start frying them just a little bit. I'm making them about the size of a golf ball. Now, if you don't want yours to be that large, then make them a little bit smaller, or if you want them bigger, make them bigger. But I'm going to make them about the size of a golf ball. If you had other spices you wanted to add to the meatballs, you could. And I will show you the recipe book that I get this out of. Last night I showed it as well, and wanting to use some of the recipes out of one of my many cookbooks. Looks like we're going to have about 9 meatballs, which will be just the right amount for Michael and I. Okay, I'm going to wash my hands and then I'll show you what's going on here. I just have them frying here in the skillet, and I'm going to make sure they're browned. They won't have to be cooked all the way through because I am going to be putting these in the crock pot. So this is the cookbook, not the crock pot. This is the cookbook that I was telling you all about last night on the video that I did. So if you've not watched that one, go back and watch it. My paternal grandmother gave me this recipe book as a wedding gift. Michael and I will be married 44 years in July. And so this recipe book has had a lot of use. As you can see, it's stained on the back. There are several of the pages of some of my favorite stuff that are stained, that have food on them. Let's see here. I have another cookbook that I use that came from a church in Woodward, Oklahoma. But yeah, it's got stains on it and worn, and I have highlighted some of my favorite recipes. And this recipe that I'm doing today is called Lazy Daisy Meatballs. This recipe is from Geneva Carlisle, and this recipe book came from the Young Women's Study Club out of Leedy, Oklahoma. And my cover, I've wore it off, I've wore the pages. So this cookbook has had some good use, which means it's got some really good recipes in it. So I'm going to be using a lot of the recipes out of this cookbook for our What's for Supper series. We've been doing this for about a month now. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've gotten some ideas, and thank you for those of you who have sent me ideas. I have used some of those. So anyway, that's where this came from. Now, one thing that you can do that's a little bit different than what I'm doing, the meatballs that I'm making this evening are barbecue, but you could do a gravy if you wanted to. And Geneva in this recipe just used a can of cream of mushroom soup and poured it over the meatballs. So that's a way you can do that too, or make your own gravy, whichever you prefer. But mine this evening are going to be barbecue. So it looks like my meatballs are cooking nicely. I'm going to flip them over so that they can cook a little bit more on the other side. Now I'm going to make the sauce that I'm going to put on the meatballs, that I'm going to put in my little crock pot. This crock pot that I have, you've seen me use it before. This was my mother's, and after she passed away, I was able to get it, and I scarfed it up before my sisters had a chance to get it. But I'm telling you, it is perfect for 2 people. It's a 1.5 quarts. I believe that's what it is. I've looked before. Yes, 1.5 quarts, and it's just the perfect size for 2 chicken breasts or a couple of pork chops or something like that. And you talk about easy cleanup. I've got a small crock pot liner in this, so cleanup will be a cinch. I just gather it up and put it in the trash. So that will be easy. Well, first I'm going to mix up my sauce, which is going to be 1 cup of barbecue sauce, and it's about 1 cup of grape jelly. I know that sounds weird, but this is really good. Who would have thought grape jelly and barbecue sauce would taste so yummy on meatballs? But it does. So I'm just going to mix that all together really well. And I believe the meatballs are done frying enough in the skillet. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer those to my crock pot. Now I'm just going to pour my sauce over those meatballs, which I have 9 of them. I got 9 of them out of that 1 pound of hamburger meat. You could make them smaller if you wanted to, or use more hamburger meat and make more if you've got a larger family. And I'm going to put these on low because this little crock pot really cooks hot. So know your crock pot and kind of how long you need to put them in there. But it is 2 o'clock. I'm going to set it on low. We're going to eat supper between 5 and 5:30, and they will be just right. So I'll come back when we get ready to eat supper and let you know how they turned out. Okay, folks, so our meatballs are ready. I reheated some mashed potatoes that we had from last night that I didn't use. It was left over. I've got some of the orange mandarin salad left from last night that I'm going to serve as well. And we have a little bit of our cheesy garlic bread. So we'll dish this up and I'll do a little taste test and see how those meatballs turned out. They look really yummy. You could put them on the mashed potatoes if you wanted to. We'll put one on there. It looks really good. It's a nice plate of food. All right. I know the mashed potatoes are good because I already tasted those, but I'm just going to take a taste of one of these meatballs and see how they turned out. They're really, really hot. Speaking of hot, couldn't you put a little bit of spice of some kind in there if you wanted to have some heat in those meatballs? I don't know. Since I'm not one that likes hot stuff, I'm not sure how that would work, but I mean, it might be worth a try. Some sriracha sauce or, I don't know, something like that. That might be good. Give it a try. So let's see how they turned out. Yummy. Oh my goodness. Those are delicious. You've got to try these meatballs. Such an easy supper. If you didn't want to do mashed potatoes, do rice, whatever you wanted to do with that as your side. So once again, we have a really easy meal, an easy supper. You could put this on before you go to work of a morning, put it on low on your crock pot, and it'll be ready to go for your supper. So thank you all for joining me again today for What's for Supper. It turned out really good, and be sure to try this yourself. And remember, enjoy your meal. We'll see you next time.